Big news! CityCast Boise has been nominated for the Best Podcast in Boise Weekly's Best of Boise contest. Now we just need you to make it official by voting for us. Every day we bring you sharp news breakdowns, insider event tips, and the tastiest food recommendations in town, so you never miss what makes our city amazing. And this is your chance to help us shine. Voting's open till May 23rd. It's easy and only takes a few minutes. Just click the link in the show notes. Thanks, everybody. Today on CityCast Boise, spring might just be the Foothills' finest season if you know where and when to go. We're talking trail etiquette, blooming wildflowers, and safe hiking tips. Plus, we reveal the details of a secret hike that's been gatekept until today. It's Tuesday, May 13th. I'm Lindsay Van Allen, and this is what Boise's talking about. Joining me is Heath Druzin, who's back with more fantastic recommendations. Hey, Heath.
Hey, Lindsay. How's it going?
Good. So where does spring land on your best time of year to hike ranking?
If you're in the Boise area and kind of lower down in the mountains, it's an awesome time. It's going to be a little tougher for the bigger mountains, but you're just kind of coming out of hibernation after the winter anyway. And it's a great time to get out on some of those lower down trails when it won't be blazing hot in the afternoon. So I would rank it really high as long as you know where to go.
So it sounds like maybe higher mountain areas wouldn't be ideal this time of year, but what makes a spot good for a spring hike?
Well, I'd say it kind of depends on what you're looking for. One thing I really love is seeing wildflowers. And for the high country, when you're getting up into the Sawtooth, those kind of mountains, you got to wait a long time for wildflowers, like at least July. But the cool thing is that you can hit some spots at lower elevations, including right in your backyard in Boise, and see some great wildflowers. Another thing that makes a good spring hiking spot is a place that's going to be melted out, right? That you're not going to hit a lot of snow. And you get a lot of that actually within 2 hours of Boise. You can get a lot of those early melt out trails in the spring, and you get that nice sweet spot of good weather and really nice trails, snow-free trails.
So if someone is, looking at a map or kind of sorting through different trails in the area, what should they look for if they're planning a hike this time of year?
The first thing is to look close by, right? Don't sleep on the foothills. They're great. And I'd say in the springtime, that might be the best time for the foothills trails. Because, come late June, July, once you get to late morning, it can be really, really hot to hike on those trails. But in May and early June, they can be beautiful. And one thing they might be underrated for is that first thing I talked about, wildflowers. So the first thing to look at every day, of course, is, make sure that the trails are in good shape, make sure they're not, they're not muddy. But if they look good to go, look for some trails if you want to see wildflowers, for example, with some kind of broad sloping hillsides. A lot of times those will kind of explode in colors. You won't get it as much when you're up in the forest, obviously. So that's one thing to look for. Another thing to remember is exposure, right? Spring can be great, but it's one of those times of year that can be really different day by day. So if it's going to be a hotter spring day, just remember some of those lower down trails, they're pretty exposed to the sunshine. So kind of keep that in mind for when you're going to go.
You've mentioned wildflowers a few times. So what kind of plants or wildflowers are popping up in the foothills or trails around Boise this season?
Oh, boy. Okay. So arrowleaf balsam root. That is a really cool flower, and it's very common. And when it pops, you get these whole hillsides that are bright yellow. And I think that's really cool. And that's something you can find in Boise. If you just go a little ways up in the foothills, you see a lot of that. And one place is Military Reserve, that section of the foothills that starts really right in downtown. You can go up there and you can see a lot of wildflowers like that. And like just whole hillsides just erupting in color.
Are there any animals or birds that we would be more likely to spot this time of year before it gets too hot, too sunny, too fire season-y?
Yeah, I mean, I find that I see a lot more deer and I actually see quite a few coyotes. That's more rare, but you do see them if you're on the lookout for them in the spring. In general, I would say before it gets really hot, you've got animals a little bit lower down. So if you get out a little past Boise, if you're going up in a little higher up, you'll definitely have a really good chance of seeing deer and grouse. And if you're really lucky early in the spring, if it hasn't heated up too quickly, there still could be elk hanging around east of Boise. It's definitely possible to see those. It's not guaranteed, but it's possible. And birds are on the move too. So if you're a bird nerd like me, keep your eyes on the sky, and you can definitely see a lot of bird life in the spring.
Hi, I'm David Plotz, the CEO of CityCast. We've all set health goals: lose weight, exercise more, eat better. But without a plan, those goals often fade. That may have happened to you. It has definitely happened to me. And that's where Prolon comes in. Prolon's 5-day fasting mimicking diet gives you a science-backed, structured approach to stay on track and see real results. And now Prolon is upping their game with the new next-gen 5-day program, delivering the same science-backed benefits in a cleaner, more convenient, and more flavorful format. Prolon is a plant-based nutrition program featuring soups, snacks, and beverages designed to nourish the body while keeping it in a fasting state, triggering cellular rejuvenation and renewal. Next Gen builds on the original Prolon with 100% organic soups and teas, a richer taste, and ready-to-eat meals. Developed over decades at USC's Longevity Institute and backed by top U.S. medical centers, Prolon has been shown to support biological age reduction, metabolic health, skin appearance, fat loss, and energy. I've been doing the 5-day program, and I feel so much better. I really enjoy the tasty energy bars, the snacks and soups, and the fact that I can enjoy meals, even though the calorie count is super low. The flavors and textures are excellent. An olive oil snack here, broccoli and quinoa soup there, hibiscus tea, a yummy nut bar. It's got the benefits of a 5-day fast, but doesn't have the challenge of doing it with pure liquids. It's a system reset. And also, I know this sounds funny, but it's not. The packaging and directions are fantastic, clear, and well-organized and thoughtful. For a limited time, you can be first in line to experience the new Next Gen at special savings. Prolon is offering CityCast listeners 15% off site-wide, plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe to their 5-day program. Just visit prolonlife.com/city. That's PROLONLIFE.com/city to claim your 15% discount and your bonus gift. prolonlife.com/city. This episode of CityCast is sponsored by Babbel. Learning a new language opens the door to new friends, new cultures, maybe even a whole new life. So why not start the journey today with Babbel? You can start speaking a new language with confidence thanks to Babbel's conversation-based technique. It quickly teaches you useful words and phrases about the things you actually talk about in the real world. There are more than a dozen languages available for you to learn at your own pace, with material tailored to your individual proficiency level, interests, and time availability. I'm David Plotz, CEO of CityCast, and I've been learning Spanish with Babbel and brushing up a teeny bit on my French. But there's also Turkish, Swedish, Dutch, German, many more languages. Babbel's tips and tools for learning a new language are approachable and accessible. It's like having a private tutor in your pocket. I particularly love Babbel's guided conversations, which let me practice real-world conversations. What to say at the doctor's office, how to leave a party, using speech recognition to make sure I'm getting the pronunciation right. Babbel's mobile app and website have real-time feedback, progress trackers, and clear visualizations. They're helping me improve my Spanish in only 10 minutes a day. So get talking with Babbel. I want you to learn another language, so I'm teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for CityCast listeners at babbel.com/CityCast. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/citycast. Spelled BABBEL.com/citycast. Babbel.com/citycast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Is there anything that people should be cautious of or keep an eye out for since it's spring that, like babies are being born? Is there anything that people should be cautious about?
Yeah, I mentioned coyotes, and every year there's warnings about coyotes, and unfortunately, every once in a while, a dog runs into trouble with coyotes. When they have pups, they are really territorial, and just in general, if there's a sign that says there's coyotes in the area and you have a pup with you, then keep that dog on a leash. There's been dogs that have been killed, and the coyotes are just doing their thing in their territory. And it's really on you to protect your dog. So that's one big thing. Also, it's rare, but there are rattlesnakes out there. And especially if you go down into the Canyonlands, watch out for rattlesnakes. And again, if you have a dog, that's another thing you really have to be careful about. But the big thing is you got to watch the weather in the spring, even more than other times of year. Because it's one of those times of year where you could have a day where it's a high of 50, or you could have a day where it's a high of 90. And you could have thunderstorms, or you could even have snow, depending on your elevation. So just really, if you're going to go out and do a hike, especially if you're going to do an ambitious hike, I'd really check out the weather and see what it's like so you know what to pack. And then the real big don't that I say all the time, just to remind people, is do not go out on muddy trails in the foothills. After a big rainstorm, if the trail is muddy, please don't do that because it wrecks the trail. And a lot of people are really good stewards in Boise. A few people are not. And that can really take a toll on trails if you go out when it's muddy and leave big footprints that then dry out and mess up the trail.
Heath, how long after a rainstorm or a couple of rainy days does it take for a trail to be dry enough that it is good stewardship to be using it for a hike?
It really depends on the trail, and that's why I encourage people to go to the Ridge to Rivers website, which has daily updates and is really good. And what I like about it is they don't just tell you what not to do, where not to go, but they'll tell you like, okay, so a lot of trails are muddy today, but these trails are good to go. And that way, you don't have to just cancel your plans, right? You usually can find somewhere to go where you can get a hike in and be responsible.
I love that. Okay, so if you had to pick one hike in the foothills that is like the best, or maybe somebody who hasn't been before, or they're only going to be in Boise for a few days, what is the foothills trail or hike that you would recommend for them?
One that I really love to do is Watchman's, which is above Military Reserve, and you can do a loop with Watchman's and Three Bears. If you look at the Ridge to Rivers map, it'll be pretty clear. It's sort of it can be I guess a like semi-ambitious hike, but you have so many different options from really mellow to once you get up higher, pretty strenuous, that it's a really fun sort of choose your own adventure area. And if you want to go mountain biking, it's also a great mountain biking area. The other thing that's cool about that is really good wildflowers on that trail. So you can kind of combine a lot of different things. So yeah, Watchman's is one of my favorite trails. It also connects to a trail called Shane's, which is sort of my like dreamy, just sort of head in the clouds trail where like you're getting a hike in, but it's just kind of sort of meanders up the mountain, and you can really just like kind of enjoy the ride, enjoy the walk, and also have great views of the city too. So that whole area I highly recommend.
You know, people who are newer to this area might not know, but these foothills trails that we have that we love exist because Boise voters decided to preserve them through open space levies starting in 2001. And so the city's been able to add more trails since there's public money that's been set aside. And so when people talk about how much they love our public lands, our open areas, it's really important for them to remember this doesn't just like accidentally happen. We didn't just accidentally have the foothills.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's easy to forget if you came to Boise, even 20 years ago. I mean, that land could easily be paved over, right? That's prime real estate potentially. And Boise had the vision to say, actually, you know what? This is a community resource and we're going to protect it. And not just Boise. Obviously the Foothills trails span a lot of the Treasure Valley. And man, like we're really lucky that some smart people set that aside when they did. Because honestly, the climate right now, the political climate, I don't know that the political climate would allow something like that right now. And it wasn't all that long ago that it happened. And don't take it for granted, right? I mean, like
Yeah.
a lot of the trails in the foothills cross private property. And basically it's through the good graces of the property owner that we're able to access that. So, be kind on the trails and keep them clean, close the cattle gates when there's a cattle gate, because it's a patchwork of public and private land. And we're really lucky that we get to use that. And it could be taken away if we're not good stewards.
How does PwC take your company to the leading edge? They bring the sharpest minds in tech to your team so you can bring the ideas that will transform your business. They're passionate about your industry so you can walk into any room with every advantage. And they're with you every step of the way so you can know you're headed in the right direction. PwC builds for what's next so you can get there now. Get started at pwc.com/us/leading edge.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
So Heath, what are some other spots that maybe aren't in the foothills, but are, relatively close to Boise that would make for a great spring hike?
Yeah, the big ones are it's called the Boise Grand Slam. So these are definitely very, very approachable trails, but a little slightly bigger mountains than you really get in the foothills. So the Boise Grand Slam it's 4 different hikes, and they are roughly 5,000 feet and above at the top. And you can get to the top, which is cool. Like one thing you don't really do in the Boise foothills in general is get to a mountain peak. You generally do a hike around a trail and do like a loop, and that's great. But these ones you can go up and you can say, hey, I bagged a peak. The names are Kepros, Cervidee. One that's got kind of 2 names people use, either Shaw Mountain or Lucky Peak. And then the biggest one is called Mount Heinen. And that's a little farther away, but not too far. The cool thing about these is they're like relatively big mountains for Boise. But again, in the springtime, they get enough sun that they're almost always melted out. And people kind of use them for training for doing bigger mountains in the summer when the high country opens up. But they're great hikes on their own, and lots of wildflowers, lots of deer, lots of bird life. And a lot of them have views of Lucky Peak. And some of them you can really see on a clear day. You can see way out into the Idaho wilds and get these amazing views of the Owyhees, of the Boise Mountains. It's you don't really feel like you're in Boise anymore.
Is there anything, since it's not just, a foothills loop, is there anything else people should plan on maybe packing or having just in case, since there is that higher elevation?
Yeah, that's some people run into trouble when they don't bring enough water. That's the big thing. So bring more water than you think you need. Treat them like you're close to Boise, but just treat them like the real mountain trails that they are. And I guess pack appropriately with snacks and water. Because Spring, usually the weather's nicer, but you're still getting a lot of sunshine. You're still sweating a lot. You can still get dehydrated. That's a big thing.
Mm-hmm. So Heath, what is your favorite of the 4 Grand Slams?
Ooh, that's tough. I'd say Cervidae. I think the views are really beautiful in Cervidae, and the wildflowers are really great there too. Yeah, it's a really fun hike. But I will say sort of a 1B, Mount Heinen is one where that's where you really actually feel like you're like, oh, wow, I'm pretty close to Boise, but I really feel like I'm kind of out in the wilderness. That one's the most difficult of them, but also the most solitude, I'd say.
So difficult, but worth it?
Oh yeah, way worth it. It's difficult, but worth it. And especially if you're a newer hiker, or maybe like you want to get a little more ambitious, these hikes are great to build your confidence. Once you go up 1 or 2 or all of them, if you want to be ambitious, it definitely gets you ready for doing bigger peaks in the Sawtooth or farther afield.
Well, Heath, every time I have you on, one of my goals is to break down your gatekeeping wall just a little bit more. So I want to ask, what is a spring hike spot that you've been gatekeeping? And I'm not going to tell anyone. I'll turn off the recording. Just you and me. Nobody else will know.
I'm glad you asked. Okay. Here's my regular feature on your show where my friends get mad at me, and I give away a secret. But there is a wilderness area that is only 1.5 hours from Boise that I think very few people know about. And it's called Little Jack's Creek Wilderness.
Oh, that's adorable.
It's cute, right? It's a cute name. And it's kind of a cute hike, but like not too cute. So Little Jack's Creek Wilderness, you can look it up and you can find good directions. But it is out in the Owyhees. And the trailhead that I like is called Perdue Canyon, which is a weird word, but it's Perjue Canyon. It's such a cool hike. You're in a canyon, like it sounds like, in these canyon lands, and you're in a designated wilderness area, and very few people go and do it. And what's even cooler is it sounds like something that'd be really hard and really like burly. But honestly, the hike is pretty mellow. I mean, like it's enough of a challenge to be fun, but not so much of a challenge that it's limiting. And you really feel alone out there. You're kind of in this high desert area. And in the spring, usually it's really nice and green. There's flowers and there's some abandoned old buildings. I would guess 19th century. It's one of these places where there's not a lot of signage, where you just kind of have to think about where these buildings came from. But there's these falling down cabins, there's skulls, there's all kinds of cool little mysteries out there. And you can say you did a wilderness hike and you didn't even have to go very far. So really, really recommend that. And don't make it too crowded, please, but it's fun.
These are some great tips, some great trails that I want to check out. And especially that last one. I've never even heard of that one. So I'm really excited to check that out. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's always fun.
That's all for today here on CityCast Boise. If you enjoyed the show, make sure and subscribe to our Hey Boise newsletter for even more ways to enjoy the city this spring. We'll be back tomorrow morning with expert tips on recession-proofing your budget. You won't want to miss it.